don't think I want to raise girls who are nice. Girls who are nice are pliable and do what other people tell them so that they can be liked. I felt really overwhelmed after Grace was a giant hit. And then I thought, like, well, how am I supposed to do this again? If you go in already thinking to yourself, I have to take a deal, I have to make this deal, you've already lost. I would have thrown you out of my office. It just sounded like the most crazy thing.
From the Vox Media Podcast Network, I'm Ravin Arson, and this is Project Swagger, your transformation toolkit. Y'all, I am so excited. I am talking to someone who has single-handedly transformed television and culture. That is not a sentence I get to say every day. But today I get to say it on Project Swagger because, baby, we have Shonda Rhimes, one of the most influential storytellers on the planet. Yes, the mind behind Grey's Anatomy, Scandal, How to Get Away with Murder, Bridgerton, I'm still not, are you over season 4? I'm not over season 4 of Bridgerton. She has written some of the most confident, complicated, incredible women, especially Black women and people of color, which is unfortunately still underrepresented in Hollywood. So we talk about motherhood. We talk about her self-confidence, where that came from, her ability to be a unicorn in a world that maybe wanted to dull or disregard entirely her shine. And for my corporate baddies out there, we got some career advice from none other than Shonda Rhimes. Here's our conversation. Hi, Shonda Rhimes. Welcome to Project Swagger, my queen. I am so deeply grateful for, I call this the Rolodex segment, and I know you know what a Rolodex is.
I do.
Let's get right into it. What is your most consistent daily habit?
Oh, wow. My most consistent daily habit is that I write every day and that I am there to put my kids to bed in the evening.
Okay, I love that. I love a bedtime routine, of course. Do you think that your daily writing habit is what keeps, I think about, obviously not as prolific as yourself, but I think about, my creative projects, and I always fear that there will be a dry well one day. It's just you're out. There are no more creative inspirations. So do you think it's just that muscle that keeps it going, or do you have other ways to stoke the fire?
I really do think it's a muscle. I always say that the moment you sit down at your computer, the moment from that to the moment you can actually come up with something to write is like a really long track. And at the end of the track, there's a door. And on the way to the door, there's snacks and books to read and people to call and all those other things. And you have to run past all those things and get through that door. And that's where you start writing. But to me, it feels like that haul gets longer and longer if I don't write every day. I'm faster through the door the more I work on my craft.
Oh, yeah. More nimble. I totally get it. I so admire you as a mama of 3. I only have 2 small humans who live in my house, so I can only imagine a third. We have a series right now at Project Swagger called Motherhood, the Remix, a remix mixtape of motherhood where we overtly reject the things that don't work for us. So what would you say was a motherhood expectation that you just said, no thanks?
I think the biggest one was the idea that I could do everything. That idea that if you're really good at this, you could have it all. You can actually be the mom who's baking cupcakes and be at the office and be everything to your kid. So for me, I really just gave myself permission to fail. And I say, if I am succeeding at one thing, I am failing at another. So if I am at my daughter's science fair, I am missing some big script that I'm supposed to be writing for Scandal or whatever. And I've been thinking about that for the past 10 or 15 years. I've been really thinking about that process and giving myself the opportunity to be comfortable with the fact that if you're doing one thing well, you might not be doing another thing well, and that's okay.
Wow. But that applies to so much, not even just parenthood. I think that is
it does
a way to reframe perfectionism. I don't know if you've...
Yes.
I suspect from reading your books that you have perhaps a shred of perfectionism in you. And that is a way to reframe that entirely. Oh my gosh. I'm so putting that in my back pocket. What do you think is the best parenting advice you received?
Wow. The best parenting thing I think I've done is that when my kids were little, and even now, every time they ask for my time, I say yes. So every time they asked me to play when they were little, I would say yes. And every time, if you can get a 12 or 13-year-old to want to talk to you, you better say yes.
You better say yes.
So for me,
yeah.
And you think it's going to be this huge time crunch and it's going to ruin things. But the reality of it is my kids only really want to play with me or hang out with me for about 15, 20 minutes. And then they're good. You know what I mean? I'm amazing, but I'm not, I don't know, I'm not Rihanna. I'm not,
Yeah.
a toy. So for them, it's like, give me those time, and it's focused time. And what I think happens is they know that you will say yes when they need you. And to
Mm.
me, that was the best piece of advice, to feel like even as busy as I am, that they know I will drop everything to give them that 20 minutes is everything for them, because they feel supported and they feel like I'm really there.
Oh, I remember you writing about that. By the way, I have both. I have both copies of Year of Yes with me. Okay, I am a real one. I am a day one. I love the story you tell about your daughter when she was 3 years old, fitting out. I think that is
Oh,
such a way to live life. Can you share a little bit of that story?
yeah, she was little, and she's sort of hyperverbal and like a very old soul. And she was 3 and playing with all her cousins, and she just came running to me like just like frustrated in a big way. And she said, "Mom, I'm not fitting in. I'm fitting out. I'm fitting out, Mom." And I thought that sounded great. So I was like, "Fit out as hard as you can. That's the best thing to do." And she's been fitting out ever since. I mean, she's really her own person, and she knows who she is, and she's comfortable with it. Like she goes, "I'm not for everybody." And I said,
Mm.
"You are for everybody. Everybody just doesn't know that you're for everybody."
Oh, when I read about that story, I thought about advice that my mom gave me when I was younger, which was,
Hmm.
I think, a little less artful, perhaps, was to stay weird. She was just like,
Yes.
stay weird. And then I understood that as an adult, like, oh, I can leverage my difference. And, we have built
Yes.
entire careers around that. So it is like from the mouths of babes, wonderful.
That is the perfect advice. Yeah.
Right, right. So what is your superpower? How do you fit out?
Oh my God. I don't think I've ever fit in. Like, I don't think
Mm.
I've ever been a person, if, not in a bad way, but I just was never marching to anybody else's beat. I'm always gone my own way. I think I am in an industry where I am very much a minority in all kinds of ways, kind of a unicorn. And so for me, like, I don't feel like fitting in has ever been a thing that I expected to happen for me. And I'm really comfortable with that. I do think stay weird is a really good way to look at it. And I do look at it like the way I write is because of who I
Mm. Wow. Well, you built quite a moat for yourself, ma'am.
am.
So, speaking of that, of your success and of success in general, we have a lot of ambitious folks, a lot of ambitious women who listen to Project Swagger. Success is
Mhm.
not new to them. And I think when I was thinking about speaking with you today, I was like, wow, how do you maintain the pressure of the next hit? Because I think we read a lot of books and a lot of research around getting to the mountaintop, but we don't often talk about like, well, what about like the seventh mountaintop or the 10th? And when there's external pressures of the expectation, how do you tune into that self-trust and intuition?
I think that there's so many of us who you get there and your big fear is the next thing I do won't be as good. The next thing I do won't be as good. And I think there are a couple of things about that. One, I think that you have to let go of the fear if you can. The reality of it is you didn't create out of fear, and that was your best creation. So the idea that you're going to create again and it's going to be based on, what are people thinking of me? How many people are watching me? What are they going to say? What if the audience doesn't like it for me? I'm always like, you have to let all that go, because the only thing you have that is your skill is the magical thing that you do. And
Hmm.
if you let other people take control of that magical thing that you do, you're never going to be able to make something else. Like, that pressure is so much. I felt really overwhelmed after Grace was a giant hit. It's my first television show. And then I thought, like, well, how am I supposed to do this again? And for me, it really was like, okay, I'm terrified. This is awful, but I can only know how to do the thing I know how to do. So let me just focus on that.
I think a lot about energetic frequency, both in the physical capacity, but also like how are we, engaging with the world with energy. And there is just a different quality to hunger, like
Hmm.
ambitious hunger and thirsty hunger.
Yes.
And I think that the creative things that come out of the thirst of it must be the number one, it must be on the best, it must be, the most watched show, the most watched streamer. So I think that has a different quality. Does that resonate with
I
you?
absolutely think that. It's really none of, like, I create out of love. So it's none of my business what other people think about what I put out there. My job is just to put it out there.
Mm. And creating these iconic characters. I mean, my gosh, like I can't even tell you, Grey's Anatomy got me through law school. Like Thursday nights, I was sat. And I think about like Olivia Pope. Like, who doesn't think about Olivia Pope when my spine is straighter right now sitting in this chair thinking about Olivia Pope, So do you have, I would say, which character do you relate to the most?
Oh, interesting. I think for a long time it really was, Christina Yang, and then it was Olivia. While I was writing that, I worked out a lot of my demons that way by writing about her. And then I think now a lot of it's Queen Charlotte. It's that burden of duty that happens, in Bridgerton, that burden of duty that feels so important to deal with. If you let that be all you are, you're never going to be complete. So I've managed to let go of a lot of the responsibilities, or what I think other people are expecting me to have as responsibilities.
I just want to go, how they say, like, who would you invite to a dinner party? Mm-hmm. It's like, I want to go with all of the heroines of Shonda Rhimes' work. And I mean, from like the detective to like, I mean, Shondaland. I want to go to Shondaland. Like, that could be a theme park of like Shondaland. Maybe this is the next experiential project for Shondaland. It's like all of the characters are there.
My kids have been saying Shondaland should be a place for a while. And I'm like, it is a place, it's an office. That's what we got.
Oh my gosh. Well, speaking again about your children, I read that you had a summer of no screens.
Yes.
And you talked about how their projects were just incredible. Their creativity, is not just genetic. It's clearly also like, created in the culture of your homes. Can you speak a little bit about that? Because I'm sure parents are struggling with the screens.
The screens are everything. It's all they want. It's like that thing, you feed them sugar, all they want is more sugar. You feed them, you let them be online, all they want is more of that. And I just got sick of it. And one summer, I started when my oldest daughter was still an only child. I took away all the devices. And for her, I even took away television. And she was livid for like 2 weeks. She stomped, she complained, she cried, she begged. And then one day I came home and she had made a village out of all of these moving boxes that we had in the house, and like outdoors in the yard. And then years later, when I did it with my younger daughters, she's all grown up and like 18. I came home and my daughter Emerson had done the same thing. She'd taken a whole bunch of boxes and she'd built a house and was like sort of in it, is in her bedroom, and she was living in it. But they find so many fun things. I gave them like an old-fashioned tape recorder. They played with that. They're so mad about it until they realize that they have to figure out something else to do. And then their imagination takes hold.
Something jumped out at me when you were recently, I think it was on the Bridgerton press tour, and maybe your daughters were there on the carpet or something, and you said that you were so proud of raising stubborn kids.
Yes.
And baby, my 5-year-old and 3-year-old are like just a mirror of stubbornness. And and my husband and I always look at each other and we're like, I'm going to be deeply grateful at 22 and 37 and 52, right? So what do you think? Do you think that's their nature, or do you think that you contributed a little bit to that? And if so, what did you do? Because we want to repeat it.
I feel like I tried to nurture it a lot. Like I did a lot of, if you don't like that, then say you don't like it. You don't have to do everything at the expense of being polite or nice. I don't think I want to raise girls who are nice. Girls who are nice are pliable and do what other people tell them so that they can be liked. I was always like, what do you want out of this? What do you want? And you definitely, some of the stubbornness can be a problem. You're like, please just do what I tell you. But, in the end, they're turning out wonderfully. They really know who they are. And I love that.
Oh my God, a parent's dream, truly. All right, let's get to some rapid fire questions. So speaking of knowing who you are, you have, negotiated some pretty big showrunner Hollywood deals with Shondaland. What would you say for every person listening is a good negotiating tactic across industries?
I always say never enter a negotiation that you're not willing to walk away from. Mm-hmm. If you go in already thinking to yourself, I have to take a deal, I have to make this deal, you've already lost. So you have to walk in knowing, here's my bottom line, here's what I'll accept, and here's what I'm comfortable with, and then be willing to walk away, or else you're never going to get the deal you want.
Tap into what you're hungry for versus what you're thirsty for.
Exactly.
Yeah. What is like an app or something a book, something that you could not live without that's kind of in your weekly routine?
I might have to say my Kindle. It's old school, but I love being able to carry like 50 books around with me versus, just one.
Well, I'm even more old school. I mean, I am my New York City apartment's chagrin. I am a hard paperback lady.
But I am too. So here's what's crazy. I buy the paperback, I buy the hardcover, and then I also buy the Kindle version so that if I am somewhere and don't have my book and want to read, I can always get back to it.
Oh, I love this. This is good. What do you believe is a skill that all good leaders have to have?
The ability to admit when they don't know something. I feel like people fail all the time or think they're succeeding all the time by trying to pretend that they know everything. I think the best thing you can do is surround yourself with great people and admit when there's something you don't know. I think they'll trust you more. I think you're more successful. And I think you don't then live in a culture of fear that someone's going to find you out.
Right. And then I'm sure it's, for the extent that you have somebody as direct reports, then it's inspiring actually for them to go out on a limb and do better work because they're taking risks.
I think so. They feel like it's okay to take those risks too.
I'm curious about this. Did you receive, you are a unicorn and you recognize that from early on. So, and you didn't have a traditional career path or even an industry that necessarily is like you enter at this stage and then you pass this test. Da, da, da. It's not lockstep like that. So do you feel like you had mentors?
I didn't. I mean, it was really hard in an industry where nobody looked like me. Or where everybody already knew each other. I felt like everyone knew each other and I was really shy and really introverted, so wasn't out there meeting people. And my very first show was a hit, so I didn't have time to like build that in. It was a very weird situation. So I decided that all my mentors, I went to the library and I got books. And I decided my mentors would be the people in the books, people who I admire, who had written about themselves. And so I read everybody's book. I have a list of them in my book that I list that people should read that really were my mentors. I would be like, well, what did they do? How did that work? And if I had, questions, I would go find another book and read it. And maybe all the answers weren't in there, but I definitely felt less alone. And I felt more like I had some answers and I'd learned something. And that gives you confidence.
Did you receive any advice, maybe not career advice, but like industry advice or a tactic or a tip that you were like, that's overrated?
Oh, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of attempts for people to tell you that what's already been done is the only thing that can be done. You know what I mean? That idea of, well, nobody will buy that kind of show or nobody's interested in that kind of thing. And you just have to ignore that because obviously it's not original if it's something that's already been done before. And also just be brave enough to trust yourself if what you think is interesting is interesting.
Well, and in this day and age, with I don't know, the way technology is kind of taking the wheel a little bit. What would you say is career advice that you would give for young folks, like, the age of your kids and younger?
Oh, wow.
I go to technology because I'm like, advice that I would have given to my daughter 10 years ago, I don't know if it's salient anymore.
Right. I agree with that. I do. I agree with that a lot. I mean, I think the thing that people are searching for is this sort of idea that they can have like the work-life balance. They want the job that's not too hard and they want the life that feels more comfortable. And then a lot of people don't understand how that doesn't translate into huge amounts of success. I feel like there's a moment in your life when you have to work really hard. If you really want something, work really hard and go for it, like follow that dream. And then there's a moment when you sort of earn the right to relax a little bit, right? And I feel like most people, younger people right now, don't feel like that's a priority. Like the work really hard part's the biggest priority to getting where they want to go. And I'm not saying that they're lazy. I think they have different priorities and the world is different, but that hard work is what gets you there.
Right. I still have an allergic. I'm having a physical reaction to the idea of not working hard. And that's, there's probably some things I need to unpack, but like,
I don't know how to do it either. Yeah.
I don't know how to do it any other way. Oh my goodness. So we're coming up on our final questions.
Okay.
So 10-year anniversary of Year of Yes, you re-released the book with 7 new chapters, 7, new, really like post-pandemic perspectives,
Yes.
Post-Year of Yes. What was the hardest? Do you have a hardest yes?
I mean, I think my hardest yes was packing up my entire family and moving across the country to a life that I didn't know would work. I feel like that was the hardest one, realizing that the place I was living was not giving back what I needed it to, and then making the leap to doing something new. That was hard.
And you realized, in these new chapters, you really didn't have hobbies that didn't relate to work. Do you have one now?
I do. I have two now. It's amazing. I play golf, which if you had told me 10 years ago that I was going to be playing golf, I would have like thrown you out of my office. It just sounded like the most crazy thing. And now I'm obsessed with it. And then I've recently taken up, and this sounds old lady, but crochet. Like I am crocheting a blanket as we speak. It keeps you off the phone. Like you're watching TV, it keeps you off the phone. It's a nice thing to do while you're sitting and talking to your kids or your friends or hanging out. And you're making something. I love the idea that at the end you have something.
Yeah, and it's a lovely gift. It's such a thoughtful, I'm a big handwritten note person. Yes. I love that. I think that that's a wonderful gift for someone. And similarly, something that you make and spend hours making, by the way, like a crocheted anything takes a really long time. And do you have any new challenges for the upcoming year?
This year, I'm really doubled down on working out and weightlifting.
Wait, Shonda,
I'm doubling down. I know how you feel about it, but honestly, the other day, I was like, what am I doing? As you get older, you have to work harder. And so I've just been doubling down on that every day. And that's been amazing, actually. Amazing.
I'm so thrilled. And that is so inspiring for our audience because I think we were all on that journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm certainly proselytizing it and I'm not going to stop. So last question for you, Miss Shonda Rhimes. What would you say to the person who's listening is like, okay, yeah, that's all great. But I'm just paralyzed by the fear. Of this new change, of this new chapter, of saying yes to something, of protecting, of owning my no to protect my yes. We've all been at that precipice. Mm-hmm. So what do you say to the person who's at the precipice?
The thing is the very act of doing the thing that you are so afraid of undoes the fear every time. I mean, that's what I learned when I wrote my book, is you can be terrified, but the repeated act of doing it anyway suddenly demystifies that whole thing and you kind of let it go and it falls away and you are just you. That for me was profound, discovering that, because I was so afraid of so many things.
I know you have a more nuanced, relationship with yes.
Yes.
You're not still saying yes to everything.
Exactly.
But do you find that that experience with the year of yes kind of dulled some of those, it took the charge out of some of those fears?
I do think that the very act of doing something, and now I'm very specific about what I will and won't do. And now I do the things that I feel like are going to add something to me. And I say no to everything that's going to deplete me. And I don't feel guilty about it. That was the hardest thing, is letting go of the guilt that comes with that. But I can't do the things just because other people want me to. I have to be excited by them. So if I'm going to say yes to something scary, it has to be something I'm dying to do, not something other people want me to do.
I so subscribe to that. And I know I love being home. I love being home, and I know you love being home. And so I have a new thing that maybe you'll adopt or maybe you'll agree with. If somebody invites me to do something purely social, like there's no ROI for the business, like it's just like, hey, let's do a kiki. If I wouldn't say yes to doing that thing that day, I'm probably not going to be excited to do it in 3 weeks or 3 months.
I like that.
So then I take that into the calibration scale of whether it really is a hell yes or a no thank you.
That is really smart. I'm going to strike that. I'm going to try that because I think that's going to save me from a lot of yeses. I'm like, why did I say yes to this? I thought I wanted to do it, but I don't.
All right, well, thank you so much for saying yes to Project Swagger. I absolutely adore you. I'm always sending you so much love.
Every day I think about you telling me to put my crown on. So I love it. So glad to be here.
Thank you, Miss Shonda. And our Project Swagger community is deeply grateful for your insights.
No, thank you.